Get him!
Guyver Anatomy Explored. Physiological details of the ultimate alien bioarmor. The bio-booster armor Guyver comic series by Yoshiki Takeya was first released for circulation in 1985 by the Japanese publisher Tokuma Shoten. The science fiction comic, which centered on a symbiotic techno-organic suit that improved its host's abilities, quickly won over readers. The natural succession of a manga that is loved by fans is to see it on the screen, and thus the manga was adapted into both anime format as well as movies, both animated and live action. All the media is either completely or loosely based on the source manga, and the main selling point, naturally, is the Guyver itself. In this video, we're going to break down all we know about the Guyver's anatomy, so keep watching. Before we get into our explanation though, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What is the Guyver unit, and how does it impact an individual? Obviously, we have to start from the start, and the first question that comes across is, what is the Guyver unit? Well, the origin of the Guyver unit is shrouded in mystery. Many believe that the Guyver unit was created by a group of aliens referred to as the Creators, all belonging to different species. They belong to an interstellar organization with a central authority, according to the mythology of this universe, and their technology is so sophisticated that they are capable of transporting planets across galactic distances simply at will. In this universe, it is also understood that they created and subsequently used the human race as a biological weapon, which makes them super powerful if you ask me. Further, they also appear to be at war, but it's unclear with whom or why they are warring. The story of the first ever Guyver suit is quite interesting. The creators tested the effects of the Guyver unit that had successfully bonded with their newly created weapons eons ago, and the outcome was the first ever Guyver unit. However, despite the astounding outcomes, the newly created psionic shielding freed the human subject that was being used for testing from the creator's control. A creator ship was even destroyed by the newly formed creature when the human host altered by the Guyver suit turned on the creators themselves. The bio-boosted human was given the moniker Guyver and ordered to be destroyed. The creators gave one of their creations named Arkenfell the unit remover, who used it to take the human's Guyver unit out before burning the human. So clearly there's a lot of death and destruction surrounding the Guyver unit and its creation. Lore of the Guyver universe aside, let us come to what exactly the Guyver units are. They're obscure, symbiotic, bioorganic suits of armor that bond with a host to strengthen its own powers and give them access to a variety of weapons. To accomplish the goals held by the creators, the Guyver units were created as an all-purpose environmental suit that they could use. The Guyver unit, also known as the G unit, despite being categorized as armor, does not only sit atop one's body, it is unique because it also alters a variety of the host's biological systems, including the elimination and rearrangement of certain organs. This is also why Guyver units are classified as bioarmor, since they alter the host's biology and physiology, creating a completely new creature in their place. This is also why exploring the Guyver anatomy is so interesting. Further, when a person wears it, not only are their abilities enhanced, but they are also released from having to follow the creator's will and telepathic orders. As a result, these suits were given the name Guyver, which in the tongue of the creators means abnormal, or out of control. A Guyver unit has the unique ability of independent action, despite technically being a suit of armor, and it's actually semi-sentient. If its host is unable to actively control it, this semi-sentience is used. When in this state, it typically only acts to protect itself from the assumed threat it's facing. The host's inability to disengage with the armor if they have suffered deadly injuries, leaving them without the Guyver's protection and suit-enabled quick recovery from injury, is probably also due to this semi-sentience. Additionally, even though extremely resilient, an activated Guyver can still be harmed or even killed with the right equipment. However, we will come to its powers and abilities later in the video. How does Sho Fukamachi transform from a human to a Guyver? Sho Fukamachi is an integral part of the Guyver tale, whether you read the manga or watch the anime or even the movies. This is because Sho, a 17-year-old second-year student studying at Narasawa High School, accidentally chanced upon a Guyver unit and became its host. When Sho and his friend Tetsuro Segawa saw an explosion on their walk home from school near Lake Narasawa one day, Sho's life became an endless nightmare plagued by forces he never knew existed. Sho finds an odd object that he would later learn was a Guyver unit that was launched in into the sky as a result of the detonation. When they went to investigate the device, Show's curiosity resulted in the unintentional activation of the mechanism, and the bizarre organic device engulfed him and changed him into a Guyver. After activating the alien armor, Show discovered that the Kronos Corporation, a shadowy organization that created zoonoids, or biological weapons out of humans, was after him. 3 Guyver units were found in an alien relic that Kronos had uncovered, but they were lost when a traitor in their organization took them. To get the Guyver back from Show and study it as part of their plot to rule the world, Kronos thus targets Show, and the series follows Show's journey as a Guyver. Now, coming to the transformation in question and how Show looks post-merging with the Guyver unit, before we move into a detailed description, bear in mind that these are not exactly the same across the comics and their subsequent animated shows and movie counterparts. However, in this video, we're trying to cover the common grounds and characteristics that span across media. Guyver's shape is reminiscent of the larger categories of insects, and this is further established because the body of the Guyver is made up of a hard exoskeleton and has a soft interior, just like most bugs. The Guyver's fundamental shape is still that of a human, albeit one with what appears to be slightly longer limbs, giving it the appearance of a humanoid insect. The body portion of the Guyver is wrapped in and possibly suspended within an organic body glove that resembles the dormant unit's wire. Further, once again, just like many insects, most of the body's weak points are protected by segmented, smooth armor that moves with the most flexibility one can imagine. Interestingly, the texture of this smooth, segmented armor is similar to that of an eggshell. Further, a single swept-back horn or antenna crowns the head, but most noticeable, the face of the Guyver lacks all human features apart from having 2 big, opaque eyes, and even those are rather unnerving. A Guyver also has 2 respiratory units, which are usually represented by hexagonal outlets on the cheeks, as well as a sonic oscillator on its face in the form of 2 tiny silvery spheres. Each Guyver uses a distinct color scheme, despite the fact that all units have the same color. This color scheme is most likely related to the host's psychological profile. Further, just being able to summon the armor at any moment is not the only benefit of a human merging with one of these bio-booster symbiotes. The transformation in itself is more significant because every cell in the host's body now contains the symbiote, completely altering the host's biology and physiology forever. Other features include a tiny group of pockmark-like organisms on the shoulder blades of each Guyver. However, they are not for aesthetic purposes. Instead, these pockmark organisms serve as messengers between various Guyvers, as well as between the carriers and the armor. Apart from all this, when not using a suit, a Guyver host is seen to resemble the person they were before their change, right down to the scars they had before merging with the Guyver unit for the first time. In essence, the armor actually travels along with them in a small pocket realm, kind of like a fold in space, and is always accessible. Now, we know the armor is always accessible for transformations, but how does it really happen? In fact, no matter how many times the transformation is shown, especially in the anime, it's still super cool to watch. Here's what happens when a host calls on the Guyver armor unit. When the host calls on the unit, it activates the psionic link that the host has with the armor. It further specifically activates the control metal that is responsible for triggering the transformation. This activation initiation is done via an intense call that can be accompanied by a sort of kiai, which is shown as being unique to the host. For example, Fukumachi is seen crying out Guyver, while Makishima, another Guyver, is shown yelling Bio Boost. Once the process is initiated, the dimensional wall is breached by the control metal, and this drags the armor along, bringing it out of the pocket realm it usually stays in. This triggers a shockwave, which is important since it clears the host from anything that might get caught between the armor and his body during the course of the transformation. However, as has been seen in the anime and the manga, the clothes being worn by the human host do not seem to pose a barrier. In fact, no one yet has been able to understand why clothing is not affected by this, but it simply isn't. Thus, once out, the soft and flexible armor wraps itself around the host. The manner in which this happens resembles a tentacled alien organism, which manifests in the form of tendrils. These tendrils liquefy and merge into the flexible body glove of the suit, before solidifying once again, creating the armor and molding it to the host's body, all in a split second. It's truly a sight to behold. Blink, and you might miss it. Last but not least, if you thought only the exterior changes during this transformation, boy are you wrong. While the armor engulfs the host body, the biology and physiology of the host are also modified. Human organs, muscles, and even bones change their shape or shrink away to be supplemented or replaced by the symbiote's organs, muscles, and bones. The hard parts of the armor sink on and merge into the body glove. This creates a complete transformation and gives the Guyver its unique look. the transformation bring in insane physical strength. Not only does the Guyver look cool after the transformation, but it also provides the host with many powers and abilities. One of the most obvious enhancement is in the case of sheer physical strength. It is shown in various circumstances that the armor allows the host to harness incredible physical power. Certain examples of this enhancement at play are when Guyver units are shown to easily smash through concrete, and despite being humans in the suit, are able to battle and match up to other enhanced and biologically altered beings and weapons. Thus, it's safe to say that even if you are a relatively regular or even weak human being, bonding with the Guyver unit is guaranteed to result in an insane increase in strength and brute force. How do the high-frequency blades of the Guyver work? Moving on from physical strength, the Guyver suit allows the host access to various weapons, with one of them being the notable high-frequency blades. These multifaceted blades, which stretch from the Guyver's forearm, are reinforced by a strong alternating current, and when extended, resonate at very high frequencies. This is also why they are known as sonic swords. This sword is super sharp and works in a unique manner. The vibrational oscillation diminishes the molecular bonds of the majority of solid objects as the cutting edge of the blade nears it, thereby enhancing its cutting capacity and allowing it to slice through things like butter. Although the blade is typically used for striking, cutting, and thrusting attacks, skilled users have also been known to use it to deflect bullets by using it quickly and accurately. They can stretch up to 1 meter in length and have elastic properties. However, despite being incredibly effective, they too have their drawbacks. The blade's positioning restricts their usable range to elbow swings and hits. The oscillation of the swords can also be disturbed by other vibrational weapons with an identical frequency, which frequently causes explosive feedback. Further, another drawback is that despite oscillation, they are readily destroyed by explosives and corrosive liquids.
You too.
What enables the Guyver to defy gravity? Interestingly, the Guyver is able to defy gravity. The metal sphere at the Guyver's waist, known as the Gravity Controller Orb, is what allows him to levitate, thus defying gravity. From a higher plane, the orb steals gravitational energy, and this results in a unique ability. This orb has two primary applications, the first of which is giving the Guyver the ability to fly using the mechanism we have just mentioned. The second use, however, is even more interesting. It allows for a move called the Gravity Launcher, also known as the Pressure Cannon, where the Guyver can discharge directed destructive gravity waves that have been compressed into a ball that resembles a black hole. This cannon can also be used as a tiny temporary shield to deflect blows. The Guyver, a threat to its own user as well. The Guyver can actually be a threat to its own user, or the host body, and this is primarily because of a certain part called the Control-A technological marvel. The control metal is a crystalline computer that not only manages the operations of the symbiotic armor, but also serves as artificial intelligence that, if necessary, can take the place of the host's consciousness. Additionally, it creates a full backup of the host's mind and body, repairing any physical injuries up to and including total body obliteration. The Guyver lives as long as the control metal is undamaged, so while the control metal is pretty much the brain of the Guyver and is seen located right in the middle of the Guyver's forehead. Being the central component of the Guyver armor, it's in charge of regulating power production and transformation. The control metal is the hardwiring of the unit that enables the host to use the Guyver devices, and it has tentacles that extend into the host's brain. With all this told, we now come to the scary part. What happens if the control metal is taken out? The suit's power overload will cause the armor and host to fall apart if the control metal is taken out of the Guyver's cranium, meaning the Guyver, in this case, will consume its owner. In this manner, the suit is a possible threat to its owner as well. Exploring the insane regenerative abilities of the Guyver. If you thought Deadpool or Wolverine had insane regenerative abilities, then Guyver's regeneration power will amaze you. Even wounds that would usually be fatal to other humans can be healed very quickly in the case of the Guyver. In fact, even if the Guyver were to pass away, as long as the control metal is still in place and contains some of its host's DNA, it can recreate the host and preserve his memories all the way up to the point of passing away. This regenerative power is so extreme that once, a few cells connected to the control metal were all it took to fully regenerate Guyver 1, which is the protagonist's show. Another time, after a serious injury, Guyver 1 regenerated itself from only its hand, which was the only part to survive the damage. Crazy, right? How is the Guyver able to come back from the dead? It is, once again, the control metal that is able to practically bring its host back from the dead. This has been demonstrated many times. Some of the most insane examples include the time Sho was killed by Genzo Makishima and the time he was killed by his own father, who had been kidnapped and experimented upon by his enemies. Genzo Makishima, the previous leader of Kronos Japan, who was later turned into a prototype anti-Guyver zoonoid called Enzyme, was responsible for killing Sho off the first time. At the Mount Narasawa battle, Enzyme was able to take on Sho easily. It bit off Sho's arm, then pierced him through the stomach with his tail, as the creature's corrosive blood severely injured Sho. Then, Enzyme removed Sho's control metal, which rapidly worsened his condition. Guyver, who had been partly devoured, continued to attack, but Richard Guyot telepathically gave Enzyme the command to self-destruct, which resulted in the Guyver being drenched in corrosive blood after Enzyme's corpse exploded, leaving only a rapidly disintegrating mass of malformed flesh. The Guyver was able to reconstruct its host's body completely because the control metal was recovered undamaged and was still covered in Sho's blood, practically bringing him back from the dead. Sho made an effort to save his father, Fumio Fukumachi, when Kronos kidnapped him. Although he was successful in finding his father, Kronos had already transformed Fumio into a zoonoid, a biologically enhanced weapon created out of humans, and named him Enzyme 2. Fumio assaulted his son and tore off half his brain with his teeth while he was under the psychic control of Dr. Hamilcar Barkus. The Guyver quickly changed into self-defense mode after collapsing to wait for it to regenerate and bring back Sho's consciousness. Despite losing half its brain, an injury that would kill an ordinary man, Sho was brought back to life by his suit. Sho's friends were then powerless to do anything but observe in horror as the Guyver battled and slayed Enzyme 2, Sho's father. What is the Guyver's Sonic Buster and Mega Smasher? The Sonic Buster and the Mega Smasher are two weapons that are equipped via the Guyver suit, and this is what they do and can be used for. Starting with the Sonic Busters, they are the two tiny spheres on the Guyver's mouth. They are able to unleash terrifying bursts of sonic energy that have the power to smash enemies like gas, cause the heads of victims to explode, or even totally destabilize an enemy's molecular structure. Additionally, it has been observed that the Sonic Buster can zero in on specific targets and eliminate them without seriously harming the immediate surroundings. Next up is the Guyver's Mega Smasher. This weapon can easily be regarded as the most potent tool in a Guyver's arsenal. It's a cannon that shoots out a high-output particle beam that is fired from two emitters hidden beneath the Guyver's chest plate, composed of two gelatinous organic materials. This beam is capable of vaporizing everything in its path. It can, according to official franchise information, produce more than 100 megawatts of power. Can the Guyver evolve and reproduce? These are bizarre yet intriguing questions if you really think about them. First and foremost, no, the Guyver is not able to reproduce since it's not an organism on its own. It is technically a weapon created for the purposes of war. Hence, since it's made using certain materials and created by the creators, it did not come into existence as a result of evolution, and thus cannot reproduce and create offspring. However, evolution is a possibility. Many fans believe that the Guyver can, in fact, evolve, in the sense that it can learn from its host. For example, if the Guyver's host was a human, like in the case of Sho, it could evolve to understand human emotion and differentiate right from wrong and good from bad. It is also speculated that the reason why once the Guyver suit is active, the unit is free from any control by the creators is because it evolved from a non-aware armor to a semi-sentient armor unit. However, so far, the Guyver has not been seen to evolve in any manner, and its only sense of duty is to protect the host and ensure its own survival. It might be cool to see the Guyver suit evolve in some ways, as it could make for some brilliant conversations between the suit and the wearer. The Guyver manga and anime are incredibly popular, and it's easy to see why. The focus of the franchise, which is the Guyver unit, is an extremely interesting take on science fiction and the world of aliens and artificial intelligence. Are you a fan of the Guyver franchise? Tell us in the comments section below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, be safe out there, and have a marvelous day.